The story begins with Dumbledore stealing light from a street. Then a cat comes along and it turns into Mrs. McGonagall. Then Hagrid flies down from the sky and gives Dumbledore a baby, who goes up to some shitty door and puts the baby on a shitty doorstep. Then the baby has a scar. It's Harry Potter. Harry ends up living in a small room under the stairs, and he gets an Aunt Petunia who sucks, an Uncle Vernon who sucks, and a cousin Dudley who sucks. They all go to the zoo, and Dudley wants to see the snakes, so he pushes Harry onto the ground, and Harry gets all Eye of the Tiger. And the glass that Dudley is leaning up against disappears, and he falls in. The snake escapes and thanks Harry for freeing him. Back at Privet Drive, Vernon locks Harry in his cupboard and is like, "There's no such thing as magic." The next day, Harry gets a letter from Hogwarts, and Vernon's like, "No!" Soon their house is covered in owls, then it gets bombarded with letters. They move to a lighthouse in the middle of the sea, and Hagrid breaks down the door and tells Harry he's a wizard and gives him a letter and lets him read it. Hagrid takes Harry to a pub, and everyone is amazed to see him, and he meets Professor Quirrell, who has a really bad stutter. Then he goes to Gringotts and meets goblins, who are assholes. Harry gets a bunch of money that his parents left for him. Then he goes and gets his wand from some old guy. Then Hagrid tells Harry that Voldemort killed his parents and gave him that scar. Then Harry goes to platform 9 3/4 and gets onto the Hogwarts Express, where he meets Ron and Hermione. Once they arrive at their destination, they all meet up with Hagrid and sail to Hogwarts, where they meet up with Professor McGonagall, who tells them that they're going to be put into houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. We then meet Draco Malfoy, who's an asshole. Then walk into the Great Hall, which has long tables and floating candles and a bunch of crazy stuff. Then Dumbledore welcomes them to Hogwarts. We meet the Sorting Hat, which sorts the 3 main characters into Gryffindor. They then get to see the headless ghosts and the moving pictures, and Snape, who's an asshole. Later, during their first flying lesson, Neville accidentally takes off from the ground and falls and breaks his wrist. Prickjaw Draco then takes Neville's glass orb thing, and Harry's like, "Give it here," but Prickjaw Draco flies away and throws it, and Harry flies and catches it right in front of McGonagall's window. McGonagall then tells Harry that he is the Quidditch team's new Seeker, and all the kids are like, "Whoa, that's crazy." Then, the 3 of them get caught on the moving staircases and wind up on the 3rd floor, which is forbidden and extremely accessible to students. Once there, they run and hide from Mr. Filch and his cat. In doing so, they discover a giant 3-headed dog who wakes up, and they freak out. The next day, Harry is taught how to play Quidditch and learns about the snitch, which when caught, ends the game. Later, Quirrell runs into the Great Hall shouting about a troll in the dungeon, then faints. Everyone goes crazy, but Dumbledore silences them all and orders everyone to go back to their dorms. But Hermione is in the bathroom and sees the giant troll in front of her, which fucks everything up. Harry and Ron show up and start throwing stuff at it. Then Harry manages to grab onto its club and land on its shoulders, and then stick his wand up its nose. Harry is held upside down, but just before getting hit, Ron makes the club suspend in the midair, then drops onto the troll, knocking it out. Snape and McGonagall show up like, "Oh my god, a troll. -5 points for being stupid, but plus 10 points because that was pretty cool." Later, they're sitting at a table, and Harry gets a Nimbus 2000 broomstick. At Harry's first Quidditch match, his broom gets all cattywampus in the air. Hermione thinks Snape is doing it, so she sets his cloak aflame. Harry catches the snitch and wins the game. Now it's Christmas time, and Harry and Ron are playing a rousing game of chess when Hermione comes up and says stuff. Then Harry gets a cloak of invisibility, so he sneaks into the restricted section of the library, and a book yells at him, so he runs and hides and finds a giant mirror. In the reflection, he sees his dead parents standing behind him. So he wakes up Ron like, "Come see this shit," and Ron's like, "Dude, I look awesome." Harry sits in front of the mirror, and Dumbledore tells him not to look at the mirror for so long. Go away. Owl. Hermione tells Harry and Ron about the Sorcerer's Stone, and how it has the power to turn any metal into solid gold, and makes whoever uses it immortal. She then explains that the stone belongs to Nicholas Flamel, who is super old. So they go to Hagrid's place, and Hagrid's like, "Go away." But Sorcerer's Stone! So Hagrid lets them come in, and shows them an egg, which cracks open and a fucking dragon comes out. But Prickjaw Draco is watching through the window, so he turns them into Professor McGonagall. -150 points, and detention for all of you, including you cackling cunt. So as punishment for walking around at night, they have to walk around at night. So they go to Hagrid's place again, who tells them that the dragon is gone. Dumbledore sent it to Romania, and Mr. Filch is like, "Man the fuck up!" So Hagrid takes them through the forest, and they find some goo. Hagrid's like, it's unicorn blood. Then they notice a shady figure moving in the distance, so Hagrid's like, let's split up. And Harry and Draco put together. They find a dead unicorn being feasted upon by the shady figure, who sees them. Draco screams and runs as the shady thing gets closer. And right as it's up on Harry's grill, a fucking centaur jumps in and scares it away. The centaur tells Harry that that thing was Voldemort. Harry has an epiphany about Snape wanting the stone. Then his scar starts to hurt, so he thinks danger is near. They'd run to McGonagall and ask where Dumbledore is. He's not here. Fuck! Then Snape sees them and up to something. And Harry's like, let's go down that trap door. So they try to sneak out, but Neville stops them like, no! And Hermione's like, Pyaw! And freezes Neville in place and he falls over. They barely make it past the three-headed dog. They jump down the trap door and land in some weird vines. Hermione's like, chill! And she and Harry sink down. And Ron's like, oh my god! But Hermione makes him sink down too. They walk into a room full of flying keys. And Harry sees the one with the broken wing and goes, that one! So he gets on the broomstick and gets the key. They go into the next room, which contains a giant chessboard. And Ron's like, it's go time. Then he gets to mount a piece, while the other two have to stand on empty squares. They play a big game of chess, which ends with Ron getting knocked off his knight. And Hermione's like, Harry, you gotta go on without us. So he does. He walks into a room with the big mirror and Professor Quirrell staring into it. He turns to Harry like, haha, it was me all along and I don't even have a stutter. And he takes off his turban thing to reveal Voldemort's face on the back of his head. Harry then discovers that he had the Sorcerer's Stone in his pocket the whole time. And Quirrell's like, gimme, but Harry's like, no. Then fire bursts up from everywhere and Harry grabs Quirrell's face, who crumbles into a pile of ash. But his ghost or something gets up and flies through Harry, knocking him unconscious. He wakes up in a bed and Dumbledore tells him that the stone was destroyed and stuff about love and his mom dying for him, and then fast forward to the end of the year. The points for all the houses are added up and Slytherin wins. But Dumbledore's like, fuck that, Gryffindor wins, hooray! The end.